Headquarters, Verona, August 8, 1796. Dear Directors, the war actions were going one after another with such speed that I could not write anything to you. On August 5th, we defeated the Austrians at the Battle of Castiglione and returned to our previous positions. The enemy is retreating to Tyrol. The Austrian army, which threatened us with the invasion of Italy, disappeared like a dream. The Italian campaign continued. After the victory at the Battle of Castiglione, the French army returned to its previous positions and again besieged the Mantua fortress. In the meantime, the broken army of Field Marshal Wurmser retreated to Trento to restore its powers. The swift events in Italy affected the main front. Two French armies commanded by Generals Moreau and Jourdan finally began to attack actively. Moreau's army progressed most successfully. The current situation on the front was developing quite successfully for the French. The army of General Moreau received a good opportunity to unite in Tyrol with Bonaparte's army. Having united two armies, it was possible to start a large-scale attack on Vienna. The Directory considered this plan to be very promising and actively insisted on its implementation. However, the situation on the front was changing very rapidly. On August 24th, the Austrian army commanded by Archduke Charles unexpectedly counterattacked the army of General Jourdan. As a result of the Battle of Amberg, the forces of General Jourdan had to retreat. With these actions, Archduke Charles overtook the initiative on the front and created a menace for the flank of the army of General Moreau. At the same time, the Austrian government, recognizing the threat of uniting the armies of Moreau and Bonaparte, applied maximum effort to prevent it from happening. The reserves were urgently sent to Tyrol. This action allowed the Austrians to form an army of 45,000 men very quickly. Wurmser had a categorical order from the emperor to start the attack as soon as possible. Having received the reinforcements, Field Marshal Wurmser and his new chief of staff, Franz von Lauer, worked out a new plan of attack which had to finally destroy all intentions of the French and free the Mantua fortress. According to the new plan, the corps of 20,000 men commanded by Davidovich had to cover Tyrol. The main powers commanded by Field Marshal Wurmser had to march through the Brenta Valley and head to Mantua from the west. This would force Bonaparte to refuse the idea of going to Tyrol. The Austrian generals believed that the French would surely try to stop Wurmser's progression toward Mantua, and in this case, Davidovich's corps would strike the French from the north. By the end of August, the Austrian preparations were close to completion. By this time, Bonaparte's soldiers stood in their previous positions. The division of Massena was concentrated near Rivoli. Augereau was in Verona. Vaubois took the positions on the west bank of Lake Garda. One more division that had 10,000 soldiers blocked Mantua. General Kilmain's reserve was between Lagnago and Verona. On August 28th, the Austrian army started its maneuvers. Having left Davidovich's corps near Rovereto, Wurmser started the movement through the mountains alongside the Brenta River. Then, the Austrian field marshal planned to come to the plain and advance on Mantua through Verona. General Davidovich at this time was waiting for the right moment to start his attack as well. However, Bonaparte very promptly cracked the Austrians' plans. As soon as the news arrived that Wurmser's corps started to move west, Bonaparte decided to strike first. Kilmain was ordered to protect the bridges over the Adige River. The other three divisions had to attack the corps of Davidovich. On August 31st, Bonaparte started the counterattack. And after forced marches on September 3rd, Vaubois' division unexpectedly attacked the Austrian right flank. Davidovich was caught completely by surprise. The Austrians tried to immediately gather their troops by Rovereto. However, Masséna's entire division attacked them the very next day. Vaubois continued to energetically attack from the west. Eventually, Davidovich's corps couldn't resist the pressure of the French and started to retreat. On the morning of September 5th, the French entered Trento and pushed the Austrians back even farther to the north. In 2 days of battles, Davidovich lost approximately 3,000 men, killed and wounded. Conversely, the French lost around 800 men. The news that Davidovich was attacked reached Wurmser when his soldiers were approaching Bassano, but Wurmser decided not to turn back to continue his movement ahead. He was absolutely assured that the attack on Mantua would force Bonaparte to retreat from Trento. Yet, the Austrian field marshal was completely wrong. Bonaparte didn't retreat with his army as the Austrians expected. Having left Vaubois' division to watch the remnants of Davidovich's corps, Bonaparte sent the divisions of Augereau and Masséna after Wurmser, following the same route. This was an extraordinary and brave decision. The danger of this maneuver was in the fact that if any misfortune happened, the French would be blocked in these mountains and could be left completely without supplies. However, Bonaparte was acting very decisively. Immediately after the fight with Davidovich, the French began to make the maneuver. Augereau's division was going first. Next, Masséna's division was moving. This maneuver occurred so quickly that the Austrians didn't have a chance to defend. Having covered nearly 60 miles over 2 days, Augereau's division broke in the Primolano Gorge and crushed the Austrians' rear guard. After the fight, the French progressed even further. At the end of the day, on September 7th, Bonaparte's soldiers were already 13 miles from Bassano. Wurmser was shocked by this rapid maneuver. The Austrians tried to rapidly gather all soldiers in Bassano. However, they didn't have time to do that. On the dawn of the next day, 2 French divisions attacked the Austrians from the north. Masséna attacked down on the west bank of the Brenta River, and Augereau attacked the east bank. At the same time, Colonel Lannes headed the attack to the center. As a result of this brave and energetic attack, Lannes broke through the positions of the Austrians and took Bassano in the assault. The Austrian army was divided into 2 parts. Quasdanovich's soldiers retreated to Castelfranco. Wurmser, with the biggest part of the army, ran towards Vicenza. By the end of the battle, the French seized over 4,000 POWs, 35 cannons, and 5 banners. Thus, Bonaparte's maneuver destroyed the Austrians' entire plan. On the next day, the French commander-in-chief sent news about the new victory in Paris. We have marched through the Brenta Valley. This swift and sudden march completely confused our enemy. After that march, we destroyed the enemy near Bassano. I am asking you to give the rank of Brigadier General to Lannes. He was the first man to break into Bassano. Immediately after the battle, Bonaparte sent Augereau to Padua to cut the ways of retreating to the west for enemies. The position of the Austrians started to become very serious. They didn't have anywhere to retreat. Despite this, Field Marshal Wurmser didn't lose heart. Having regrouped his troops in Vicenza, he adopted the decision to go to Mantua. Having found out about that, Bonaparte immediately sent his divisions after the enemy. A new chase started. To get to Mantua, Wurmser would have to force the Adige River. A 3,000-man French division commanded by General Kilmaine stood in the way of the Austrians, and if Kilmaine could hold the bridges over the Adige River, Wurmser would be doomed. However, Kilmaine made a mistake. Thinking that the Austrians would break through Verona, he sent his troops north, along with that not destroying the bridge near Legnago. And Wurmser immediately took advantage of this mistake. Not getting to Verona, he turned south and moved in a forced march to Legnago. Eventually, on September 10th, the Austrians forced the Adige River without obstacles. Nevertheless, Massena continued to chase the Austrians as fast as he could. On the same day, the French vanguards forced the river near Ronco and headed south to cross the road to their enemy. On September 11th, the French vanguards, led by Murat, still overtook the Austrians. However, there were too few French troops to actually hold the enemy, so Wurmser pushed the French back and continued his way toward Mantua. Eventually, on September 12th, the Austrians broke through the French barriers and entered the fortress. This replenishment refilled the number of the garrison to 30,000 men, but there were only 23,000 soldiers capable of fighting. The rest were ill or wounded. Despite this, Wurmser was full of decisiveness to fight. Having taken the positions at the approaches to Mantua, he prepared to attack the French. And on September 15th, there was a serious battle near the walls of Mantua. However, Wurmser no longer had a chance at success. Bonaparte concentrated nearly all of his army near Mantua. I have never seen more perfect order in a battle. All our tactical movements were fulfilled with such precision that even the strictest inspector would not be able to find flaws. We were progressing and only stopping once in a while to answer the Austrians with deadly fire, but even more frequently we were throwing ourselves into bayonet fights. Eventually, our enemy retreated from the battlefield after only 1 hour, not being able to hold any of their positions. Thus, Wurmser's plan ended in complete failure. The Austrian army, which had to free Mantua, turned blocked in this fortress. Wurmser's position worsened every day. Disease was continually raging in Mantua, and the supplies ran out quickly. Nevertheless, the events on the main front were significantly more successful for the Austrians than they were in Italy. On September 19th, General Moreau's army, under the onslaught of Archduke Charles's army, started to retreat back to France. And, thanks to that, the Austrians again received an opportunity to send new soldiers to Italy to help Wurmser. The Austrians started to quickly form a new army. Now it was a matter of honor for the Austrians to crush Bonaparte and free the Mantua fortress.